heartbreak. It's something that many of us, or if not most of us, will go through at some point in our life. But I want to share with you that even in the midst of the pain, even in the midst of the brokenness, God can have a bigger purpose in your heartbreak. And I'm going to take you on the journey of my own heartbreak today. Okay, so it's December right now, and this month always is a nostalgic month for me because actually 3 years ago it was the month that I was meant to get married, and I had, the whole wedding was ready, organized, flights booked, venue booked, dress picked out, bridesmaids ready, etc. But obviously it didn't go through. God was able to really be my strength and be my fortress in that time. And there was one place in particular that I would always go to meet him and to help me kind of get through that season. So I'm going to take you along on the way and share with you a bit of an insight into my own journey of heartbreak. So this is Merroo. This is actually the prayer tower, which I'll show you in a second. But around is just like this scenery, really beautiful. You can see the mountains in the back. Usually there's a bunch of animals, but they're not here today. And yeah, it's just such a serene, really nice place to come to reflect. So I'm gonna bring you in. They have these rooms inside, which are really nice because you can spend some time, quiet time by yourself. So this is the room that I've chosen today. This is the view. I don't know if you can kind of see it nicely, but yeah, that's the view that you get out here. So you can just take some time to reflect. And I've actually been here with a lot of my different friends over the years, and we'll just spend some time in worship and in prayer. And it's just such a nice place to get away from all the busyness of life as well. I came in here with my best friend 3 years ago, and when we came here, I remember I was completely broken, completely shattered, because it was the actual day of what would have been the wedding. And I remember we came here to worship and to just reflect together. And one thing that we did together, which I'll always remember, is that we prayed together, and we had a list of names that we were going to pray for people, and one of those names was my ex. And I was just like, oh, I don't really know if I'm ready to pray for him and pray blessings for him. But I remember that God really vividly challenged me to do that. And I remember it was kind of like one of those things that says in Romans, how we've got our flesh and our spirit, and it's like the flesh and the spirit are fighting against one another. Like my flesh did not want to pray, and my spirit was telling me, no, you need to pray for him. So I ended up praying, we both ended up praying, and I remember God just really softening my heart in that process. And through that process, I remember just being able to let go. And so that kind of began my whole journey in allowing God to change me and to shape me throughout my heartbreak. And as I said yes to him more and allowed him to kind of direct my steps, I was able to heal from my relationship and to heal from the heartbreak as well. And one cliche that we always hear is like, time heals everything. But one thing that I learned and one thing that I've heard from other people is that it's actually what we do with that time that heals. And it's so true, because when we lean into God and when we allow him to work through us, in that time, he can really restore and he can really make things beautiful again. And in Jeremiah 29:13, it says, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. And as I sought after God, he revealed himself to me. And what he reminded me is that even though others may walk out of my life, he would always remain constant. And even as I was left shattered and broken, I remembered Isaiah 55, and it says, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. And it reminded me that even though I might not fully understand, I can trust God and trust that he's doing something greater. It reminds me of this mosaic analogy that Pastor John Piper talks about. and he talks about like these little shards of glass. And when we look at life and we look at the things that happen to us, we can see them as little pieces of glass that don't really make sense on their own. So it could be a wedding called off, it could be a breakup, it could be anything like that. And when we look at them, they hurt and they're broken. But what we can remember is that God actually is taking those pieces as we give them to him, and he's creating a beautiful mosaic behind that, and he's creating a bigger picture, because when we step back, we'll be able to see that. And sometimes if in the midst of it, you might not be able to see what God's really doing, but I want to encourage you that God is working as long as we allow him to work through us and in us as well, and trust him in the process. Now, 3 years later, when I look back on my broken engagement, I actually see it as probably the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life, but also the greatest blessing that God has ever given me, because it brought me back to God. It allowed me to understand the character and the nature of God as a loving father, as a comforter, as my strength, and also I saw God's hand of protection over my life. So even if I didn't understand at the time why I was going through a heartbreak, why things happened the way it did, I can see now in hindsight that it was what needed to happen. It had to happen, and it was all part of God's greater plan for me, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. So we've made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for coming with me today to Merroo, to this really special place that means so much to me. And remember to subscribe to Salt's YouTube channel for more videos on singleness, dating, and relationships.